Hey guys, this is a bit of a different game. You'll see that this was played by Mr. Sunyveil here, which is a game he basically posted on Reddit. Well, not a game. He posted his seasonals run on Reddit, and he was going over and asked for any external opinions on and feedback on his play that he might have missed. So he's basically working on analysis, and as you know, I obviously support post game analysis and looking to improve. There, you will notice that the video is a little bit off center because it includes part of his video recorder, but you know, whatever. You can see the game, so it's not going to be a big deal. Now, this is a game between Aphelios Zoe with PNZ and Timo Ezreal with Foundry and Frostbite. So you, of course, in this matchup, it's very important to preserve your health and really find ways to get in damage, because the thing is, they have a lot of Frostbite, so it's very hard to go for like an OTK with this deck. So you really need to get in damage where you can, and because they have so much burn from their mushrooms, you have to both kill their peddlers and also try to keep your health up so that when they play Ezreal, it's not immediately over and you get a bit of extra time to go for lethal. So now in this position, you might be tempted to play Aphelios right away, but he makes a good call. He makes the open attack. He doesn't want to give them such a clean thermal beam if you were to play Aphelios, and also gives them the opportunity to save Aphelios until after they spend some mana, or even pass altogether if they play nothing, because that will allow us to play Aphelios on a more open board when they have well, when I say open board, I mean open mana when they have A, 7 mana, which means their thermal beam is not as clean unless they spend 4 mana first, and B, if it so happens we might probably even get an extra moon weapon right away. So we, even if we play Aphelios right now, at most we'll generate a moon weapon from the Nightfall and a moon weapon next round, whereas we'll still get that same number of moon weapons if we play him next round, if the opportunity calls for it. But here our opponent actually plays Ezreal, which gives us a clean thermal beam for it. And you'll see in this position they play Chump Pump, and again, for the same reason as before, there's, even if you play Aphelios, you're not going to be able to generate the extra moon weapon until next round anyway, so there's no reason to play it now over next round in terms of pure moon weapon generation. The alternative is that we can play Temple right away, which is really good because now we actually will be able to generate a second moon weapon, but also we get the +1/+1 on Aphelios, we get +2 total mana, we get our Temple down. Everything is just better because Temple is really slow, obviously. Aphelios generates the same amount of value. And now you see that in that position he didn't block the Chump one because he wanted to get the full Calibrum value. But this 2-1 is worth a lot less than 4 face damage on our Nexus. We don't want to be tanking that damage for free. It's gonna be the shrooms are very scary, and you really don't want to be tanking extra damage than you need to, especially since this 2-1 is not valuable. He should have taken that block. Secondly, in this position, when you play Aphelios, you always pick Crescendum. Always pick a Crescendum. Well, I say that, but there are times when you pick something else on the first one, but that's only when it's maybe later in the game or something really urgent, like you really need to, you know, get some lifesteal or deals 3 kill a follower that you absolutely need to kill, but it's very rare. You almost always want to pick Crescendum in an early situation like this. Secondly, in this matchup, Crescendum and Calibrum are by far the best options. You don't even care about the other ones like 90% of the time because, well, they have Frostbites for your buff weapons. The only times you really want them are maybe to heal your Aphelios or to get some extra health. And Gravitum is, I mean, okay as to cycle between Calibrum and Crescendum, but that's about it. Overall, you want to spend the maximum amount of time between Crescendum and Calibrum, and also Crescendum is just so good. So not picking Crescendum is honestly a very basic mistake that you should never make in this position. Now in this position he picks Gravitum, I imagine, and kills the Chump Wump. And again, we should have just tanked the not made the block and then played Crescendum. So here they play Foundry, so, and he still has the attack token, so he may as well attack with the 2-1 at this point. He does get the 2 face damage, which is okay, but wouldn't say it's extremely rewarding. Now in this position, as you can see, we would have been able to have Calibrum for this peddler, and maybe they wouldn't have played it, but again, this Gravitum pretty useless. In this, however, with the Gravitum, you should just you should just stun the Icefield Archer. So next round you attack with 5 units, and their only blocker is Chump Wump. Peddler pretty much, and whatever else they may play. But overall, you want to make them block with the Peddler if rather than Icefield Archer, because they don't care about Icefield Archer. They care about Peddler. They may use spells to save Peddler, but they'll have protection spells anyway. So really, you can take away the protection spell for when you play the Calibrum, for example, and that would just be better. So now he has another Crescendum, and you may as well just play it here. I don't see what else you would do. Okay, so here's the Crescendum, and in this position you can play something like Ignition or Rummage. I think Ignition is actually perfectly fine. You don't really need your mana that badly. I mean, it is one face damage. You know, I guess he chose not to, but whatever. It's not a big deal. So here, obviously you want open attack. I still don't know why we picked Peddler over Icefield Archer, but here, now you might want to ask what you buff with the Mentor of the Stones, but it's probably the Dusk Petal, the Duskbringer. But the thing is, they're going to have a good static shock no matter what, so I actually prefer buffing the Mountain Goat because it brings it to 4 health. They don't have a good block with it. If they static shock, they're going to have to let either your 2-1 or your Mentor of the Stone survive anyway. So really, if we may as well buff the Mountain Goat here actually to prevent, say, Brittle Steel as well. I don't know. It's just we could also play Rummage here, which would allow us to not overdraw the gem. But here I prefer buffing the Mountain Goat. We have 3 units with 1 health, so Static Shock is going to connect no matter what. They want to kill the Ballistic Bot, and then from there they have to block either Aphelios or Mountain Goat, and you may as well buff the one they're not going to block. So here he plays Spell Thief, and I actually prefer taking Thermal Beam because you wanna have more answers to Ezreal and Peddlers, because those are the absolute primary threats. They basically can't win without Peddlers and Ezreal. So the more you keep them off the board, the safer you are. And again, like you're just giving them these shrooms puts you on so much more pressure, and you have so much less time to kill them with. This does trigger our temple on the Ballistic Bot, which does give us a bit of extra resources for them to get rid of it, which is a nice bonus. But again, it's not really all that big of a deal. So in this position, as you can see, he played Severum to level Aphelios. That could have been Calibrum. I have no idea why he phased the Crescendum into Severum. Sorry, I didn't even get around to that until now because I was talking about the support. He did play the Gravitum last round and didn't get the Severum until now, I think, unless I'm stupid or blind. But that was definitely Calibrum. That should not be Severum. Severum does nothing, as you can see here. He played it anyway. That definitely, absolutely should have been Calibrum. I forgot to mention it. My bad. So here in this position, as you can see, they just Gravitum the Ezreal, instantly Gravitum the Ezreal, and then next round set up an open attack or something, and then next round open hush the Ezreal. When they have a ton of mana, he actually immediately hushes the Ezreal, which is kind of terrible because they only have 5 mana right now. Just stun it, and again, the main reason he did this actually was because he wanted to set up more damage. But the thing is, we should have Thermal Beam right now. Like as mentioned, we should have killed the Peddler with Calibrum. they might have saved it, but we would things would be really different. We would have made them expend more resources on worse things. We would have more answers to their threats. We would have overall just we're just wasting moon weapons, stunning units that they don't want to block with anyway, and stuff like that. So here, it's not the end of the world. Um, we still have chances. So the main reason, obviously, he went with the Hush Gravitum on the Peddler is that he wants to increase his odds of having lethal next round. But even if you want to stun the Peddler to what's this? Sorry. Even if you want to stun the Peddler for an open attack, he's not even he doesn't even end up going for the open attack anyway. He could, and also if he was scared of the attack, he could wait for the Hush until they use their attack. There wasn't the open Hush was overall terrible. He could, if they don't attack, it's not that bad. They only have 5 mana anyway. If they spend it on spells, they're not going to have blockers for an open attack. Here, the Infernum is pretty useless. He couldn't even have played it last round just for the extra moon weapons, because extra moon weapons is pretty useless too. So here he has to play it so that he can threaten more damage, force more of the mana out for purposes of setting up an attack, because he has a lot of mana to work with, whereas his opponent has basically 4 less mana, and well, overall, our options are also pretty flexible. So here he can pick Calibrum, get another shot in, remove one of their blockers for basically 1 mana, which is really, really good. They do have the Iceveil Archer for the Aphelios, which is pretty bad, but, you know, such is life sometimes. And now, in this position, he plays Get Excited, which is honestly not what I expected. The main reason he did that is because he hasn't triggered the temple yet, and if he plays Pale Cascade or Rummage, he's gonna waste the mana from the temple, which is fair. He was probably gonna do that anyway. So here they play Mystic Shot on the Zoe, and now he has Calibrum. Now here, because he's gonna Calibrum anyway, he does it first because it commits the least amount of mana. So this is a good decision. And now, before I show how the game finishes, I just want to mention that most of the mistakes here are related to Aphelios. I don't think he's a bad player, but he does seem to be somewhat unfamiliar with Aphelios, maybe, or something like that. You might have noticed that this was pretty, in terms of the mistakes themselves, it's pretty similar to the video I made yesterday. Now, if I were to summarize, it's that he's over prioritizing the stunning of the Peddler rather than killing it, and he's not. And perhaps it would be the case that it's okay if they had no other units, but there's no reason at all to stun the Peddler over the Iceveil Archer. And I actually do prefer the Mountain Goat, but he suggested that he should have supported the 2-1 instead, which I think is perfectly valid. I don't think it's a big difference. I do slightly prefer Mountain Goat, simply because they have a good static shock either way. But overall, I think there was solid play by him in the seasonals. But when it came to Aphelios, I would say that there was some distinct mistakes. So here he actually top decks Moonlight Affliction, and they can't Harsh Run. So he does manage to win, actually, thanks to this. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we could have done much better. We would have been in the game much longer. We would have much more chances to win, basically. We would have way more health. It would be a lot less scary. I will note that even if we didn't block the Chunk Pump, we might have had bad blocks for the subsequent turn, but it's not that much of a downside, because losing the 2-1 wasn't that valuable, and it does have a high chance of blocking all of that damage long term, even if they manage to find a way to still deal some of that, use the Chunk Pump for some of that damage just because it survived. But overall, pick Crescendum, curve into Calibrum, forget about these Severums early, especially against Frostbite decks. Don't try to Gravitum these units that don't want to block anyway. Maybe use it maybe use it more aggressively. Save your Hush until they're doing something scary. They only had 5 mana. Their Hush doesn't save that much health. Um, they also might have attacked, which probably not. But we could have just killed the Ezreal straight up if they chose to attack. Overall, those are the main things I want to point out. Thanks to everyone for watching. If the original maker of the video, as you can see, his name is Sunyveil, watches this, props to you, man. And I hope this was helpful. See you guys next time.